Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the February 18, 2014 business meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum of members present. And to start the meeting, I'd like to introduce Brooke Vickers, a third grade student, and Navia Horst Wade, a fifth grade student, both at Rockland Woods Elementary. So if you two ladies would come to the microphone, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Come back here, Brooke. You're not finished yet. Brooke, would you like to introduce any guests you brought with you today? Who's here that you know? And what can you tell us about yourself? What do you like to do in school? What's your favorite subject? What do you do when you're not in school?
My favorite subject in school is writing.
Writing's important. You get a lot of board members up here who are glad to hear your favorite subject is writing. Well, thank you for coming and starting the play. Anything else you'd like to tell us? Anything else you like to do when you're not in school?
When I'm not in school, I like to go to gymnastics and do tumbling.
Good for you. That's great. Navia, can you tell us a little about yourself, who you brought with you, and what you like to do in school?
I brought my mom and my little brother, and my favorite subject in school is math. And when I'm not at school, I like to do acting, which I have tonight, actually, right after this. And then I like to sing, and I like to do Girls on the Run.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you both for coming. We appreciate your starting our meeting for us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Do you want to introduce your principal?
And our wonderful principal,
Wonderful
Mrs.
principal.
Stiles.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Have a
And
great
thank you,
night.
moms, for bringing them out here tonight.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
And thank you, Mrs. Stiles. Or should I say the wonderful Mrs. Stiles?
Any board members have any other guests or students they'd like to introduce? If not, we'll move to the approval of the agenda.
Mr. President, move to accept the agenda as presented by the Agenda Committee.
Mrs. Brightman moves for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Fisher. Is there any discussion, any amendments to the agenda? If not, the question's on approval of the agenda. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion passes 7-0. Next is approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, I would like to move for the adoption of minutes from a closed session held by the board on Tuesday, February the 4th, 2014, and also a business meeting on the same date, the same set of minutes.
Mr. Bailey moves for approval of two sets of minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ridenhour. Are there any amendments or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We move next to public comment. We don't have any individuals who have signed up to speak, but if there's anybody here who'd like the opportunity to speak, we'd be delighted to hear from you. Going once, going twice. Okay, we will move on to new business. First, under new business is our consent agenda. Ms. Freeman?
given that this is the first item of business in our new building, you need to be successful. You're setting the tone for many to come.
Started to say, I feel very honored to be the first person to be able to sit up here and make this presentation in this lovely facility. And I think congratulations are deserved all the way around for the board and for the superintendent. And on behalf of staff, we're thrilled to be in here and functioning and really enjoying our new facility as well. So,
well, as the procurement officer, Ms. Freeman, we know how much you had to do with getting us here at this time, and we want to thank you. And we'll talk more about staff, I'm sure, later on, but to you in particular for all of the things you did to procure the things we need to be in this building. Thank you.
wow, thank you very much, but I really don't deserve that. It was truly a huge team effort, and my part was rather small, I'll have to say. Others did considerably more than I did, but thank you, Dr. Hardings. Anyway, let's get started. I presume you're ready to move on to these two bids. The first is portable classroom relocations. It's bid 2014-57. We did receive two bids, and these bids would establish a contract for relocating 3 portable classroom units that are currently at Bester Elementary School. 2 of those units will be moved to E. Russell Hicks Middle School, and 1 will be moved to Williamsport Elementary School. The work scopes are comprehensive in that they do include the transportation of those units from their source sites and the work that would be involved in installing them at their destination schools, which would include connecting those units to the destination schools so they'd receive power, data, fire alarm, etc. from those school buildings. This is a summer project with work expected to be completed by June 27th, and it is recommended to be awarded to EMH Environmental of Glenwood, Maryland at a total cost of $171,650. EMH Environmental has successfully performed similar projects and in fact probably installed at least 2 of these units several years ago for Washington County Public Schools. So they were very familiar with the work scope, which I think helped in them putting their price proposals together. The second item on the agenda is a data warehousing software and services. This was a result of a contract that, rather a solicitation for our student information system that the board approved in December of 2012. That contract was awarded to EduPoint Educational System for their Synergy software. As part of their original proposal, they had included an option for this third-party software, which would provide for data warehousing and some analytical capabilities. This optional price was the VersaFit Technologies eVantage Data Warehouse and Dashboard solution. After the board authorized us to move forward with that Synergy product, we had set aside a decision on this data warehouse component in order to make sure we were sort of fully aware of alternative products in the marketplace. So the selection committee was convened. It included the supervisor of testing, Maureen Margovich, who's here this evening if you have any specific questions for her, supervisors, school principals, and others who looked at other software solutions, including Illuminate, OnTrack, and Performance Matters. Maureen presented that committee's recommendations to the Procurement Review Committee, who is also recommending that the board approve this recommendation to purchase the VersaFit Technologies Advantage software solution at a total cost of $200,000. $146,227 is for the software, and $53,773 are implementation services. This solution would be reside at WCPS and would be hosted and maintained here. The product would be implemented between March of 2014 and September of 2014. VersaFit is EduPoint's preferred data warehouse software solution, as it has been integrated with their Synergy software at other school locations successfully. Any questions?
Is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I move to approve the bid to relocate 3 portables from Vester Elementary School to destination schools to EMH Environmental at $171,650, and the purchase of Advantage data warehousing software and implementation services to VersaFit Technologies in the total amount of $200,000.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs. Brightman and second by Mr. Ridenhour to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion or any questions? Mr. Bailey?
Mr. President, the relocatable classrooms, can you tell me what is the life expectancy of one of those buildings? Are they a 10-year option or 5-year?
They definitely exceed 10 years. I think, and I'm speaking probably on behalf of some facilities folks that could answer this a little bit better than I can. I know that when they're moved, that does impact their lifespan.
Lessens it, of course?
I think so, yes. Yeah, they're taken apart, and or sometimes they're transported in one unit. And once they're moved, it does alter their integrity just a bit. But I've seen them placed and moved around. Frederick County Schools was very regularly relocated numerous portables every year without any difficulty. And I know they kept their portables in service for upwards of 20 years. Can you speak to that any better?
Original life expectancy of most of our portables is 15 to 20 years. We do annual maintenance on a lot of the portables. We've completely rebuilt some of the portables, and it's really determined on the frame of the portable. Some of those were purchased, over a long period of time, and some of them aren't worth refurbishing, and others are worth rebuilding from the ground up with the frame. And we have some portables that are probably in service for 30 or 40 years. But 15 to 20 years would be the life of one, moved, placed somewhere, and, basically not moved again.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion? If not, the question's on the approval of the consent agenda. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Next on the agenda under new business is the second quarter FY 2014 budget adjustments. Mr. South.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board. You had in your packet over the weekend the requested second quarter budget adjustments. And as usual, I will not go through them line by line, but there are just a couple of them I would like to call to your attention. First of all, on line 1, you see we're requesting an increase in revenue of $161,850. That's related to several things. First of all, we received approximately $75,000 more than we had anticipated in the trade-in of the buses that we did this year. We also had higher than projected non-resident student tuition by about $30,000, and the increased state revenue for private placements came in about $50,000 higher than what we had originally thought because of a change in the formula. Excuse me, the reimbursement formula. If you move down to line 3, at mid-level administration, or you see there's a savings of $194,000 and some change. That savings is in multiple salary lines and is primarily related to several vacancies excuse me, in the mid-level administration area. Line 4, instructional salaries. a savings of $196,000, all attributable to turnover credit and some vacant positions. Moving down to line 7, the student health, you'll see we're requesting an additional $101,000 be added to that line, the budget for that line. That relates primarily to the additional LPN cost for the IEP one-on-one requirements of $60,000 and additional contracted services of approximately $40,000 due to the fact that we could not recruit a physical therapist, and we are at this time handling that through contracted services. Pardon me. I would then bring your attention down excuse me, to line 10, the maintenance of plant. We're requesting an increase of $574,284. That's for furnishings and paving, all of that related to this new building. While that was not part of the original central office renovation project, it did make sense to do those expenditures now early before we put employees in the building. And so we made the decision to do that just prior to the occupancy of the building. All that being said, it brings us down to a net change in fund balance of 0. No increase or no decrease to the fund balance for this quarter. And if there's any questions, I certainly would be glad to address them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. South. Is there a motion to approve the second quarter budget adjustments?
Mr. President, I move for approval of the proposed FY 2014 second quarter budget adjustments.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wright. Is there any discussion? Questions for Mr. South? Seeing none, the question's on approval of the budget adjustments. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. South. Next, under new business, we have ratification of an adjustment to the 2014 school calendar. Dr. Wilcox?
Thank you, and Dr. Michaels has joined me. He will lead us through this conversation. I simply want to say to the larger community that we have listened very carefully to the concerns that have been raised about snow days and what's going to happen to the end of the school year. The good news is that we've been listening. We have a plan, and we're going to roll some of that out for you this evening. But this step is a step that's necessary for us to ratify the actions that were taken to modify the calendar for one of those days. So we're going to continue on a little bit, but Mr. Michaels, if you'll start.
Thank you, Dr. Wilcox. Last week, Dr. Wilcox requested of State Superintendent Lowry an opportunity to have school held on President's Day. That request was granted by Dr. Lowry, and at this point, we're here this evening requesting that the board ratify the ratify the school calendar for 2013-14 to reflect that President's Day, February 17th, was used as a student day and counts towards one of our 180 days for students at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. Is there a motion to ratify the adjustment of the school calendar for President's Day?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Fisher. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And as Mr. Michael and Dr. Michael and Dr. Wilcox have both said, we'll have more during the superintendent's report about other adjustments that might be considered during the rest of the school year. Finally, under new business is the consideration of vision statement for Washington County Public Schools. I'll invite the Director of Human Resources, Laura Francisco, and our Public Information Officer, Richard Wright, to come and make the presentation.
Good evening, Dr. Hardings, Dr. Wilcox, and members of the board. While Richard gets the PowerPoint going, I will go ahead and get started with just a little bit of background about what we're here to discuss this evening. We were asked by you, as part of your endeavor to update and revisit the vision for the Board of Education in Washington County Public Schools, to undertake a process of getting feedback and talking to stakeholders and finding out where the vision really should be at this point in 2014. So I want to just go over the process and the findings of that vision development process. We looked at a lot of feedback from a variety of different stakeholders. A letter was sent to community groups from the board. We created an email address that anybody could send ideas about the vision to. We developed an employee survey a web survey that was sent to all employees, but also the link was posted on our website, so again, community members could participate. We conducted a series of staff focus groups with all of our different employee groups as well as the CAC, and compiled all of that information and went over it with you in 3 different work sessions, kind of talking about what you wanted the process to be, what the findings and feedback we were getting from the community and our stakeholders, and then how you wanted to take that forward into a vision statement.
And I'm sorry if I missed Laura saying this, but for the purposes of this evening, it's very much an executive presentation, a much more condensed presentation than the actual total work that took place. I want to just take a moment and thank all the people who participated in this work. It's extremely important for the board and the superintendent and all the staff of Washington County Public Schools. But really moving forward then from what Laura said, we took all of the information that we had collected, distilled all of the words, thoughts, concepts, phrases, ideas that our stakeholders and the board presented to us, and we came up with, we established what we believed the purpose of the school system. We asked everybody who was involved in the process, what is one thing that you absolutely believe about Washington County Public Schools? And through the entire process, it was the most powerful conversation that we had with everybody, because it was very interesting to hear what people believed about Washington County Public Schools. So out of that came these several concepts: to inspire achievement, to share knowledge, and to connect communities. From there, we moved to our beliefs. Again, we're really moving at a very rapid pace to move forward the board's discussion on the vision, but after we distilled additional information and come up with these concepts that we call our beliefs. So respect, we are accessible to all and honor the diverse nature and needs of those we serve. Trust, we demonstrate character and integrity to our students, employees, and the community. Excellence, that we strive for the highest level of achievement in everything we do. And passion, that we are dedicated and passionate about building successful futures. And I'll add that that concept was very noticeable throughout the entire process, and I know that you all hear that in your conversations in the community, that if there is one thing that is for sure about Washington County Public Schools parents, staff, and students, that we are passionate about learning.
So Richard talked about some of the core components, and if we use the model that's on your screen now, we have our beliefs, which funnel down into the purpose. Why does the Board of Education, Washington County Public Schools exist? And how does that create a vision? How does that kind of clarify into a guiding statement? And we will show you in just a moment what that is. And then out of the vision would come staff operationalizing this, taking strategies forward to make this happen, to make this vision a reality, and what those outcomes would look like. And we've already started a little bit of kind of digging into that as we've gotten into this work and heard a lot of ideas from, again, various stakeholders about what that might look like, and some really exciting ideas to move forward. But the vision statement that was developed and that you all discussed at the last work session prior to this meeting is building a community that inspires curiosity, creativity, and achievement. And I know that's what you would like to discuss and move forward with this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion regarding the vision statement?
Mr. President, I move to accept our new vision statement for Washington County Public Schools, building a community that inspires curiosity, creativity, and achievement.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. President.
Second by Mr. Ridenhour. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Ridenhour.
I'll open it up maybe. Just how much I appreciate the work that the staff did and the guidance and leadership of both of you, and wanting everyone in the community to know that this was a very collaborative effort. Stakeholders from every part of this county were involved in this. And my favorite part is building a community. I just think that's what school education, public education is all about. And what I also think this statement vision allows all of the individual school communities to personalize this. And I think that gets a buy-in to this vision throughout the county. So I think it was a great process, and I appreciate the outcome.
Any other comments? I'll make a few comments. I too want to thank staff and thank all of the people in the community who responded to our request for help with this. As Mrs. Brightman said, we sent requests to the business community, to the CAC, to all the municipalities out there, to religious and faith leaders in the community. I hesitate to continue naming because I'll leave some group out, but we really cast a wide net at the arts community. We cast a wide net because as we thought about this, I think we realized, which we knew before, but it really brought it home, just how many different groups and organizations in the community we interact with as a public school system. So first, I want to thank all of them for their engagement in this process. I'm thrilled with the outcome. I think it captures to me what schools are about, and to echo what Mrs. Brightman said, the community is what really grabs me, because community can be defined many, many ways. It can be defined very broadly by the community that works in this building every day. It can be defined by what goes on in an individual school. My son was in the robotics competition that was sponsored by Volvo, and if you saw all those students working together, even though they were on different teams, the people who came together for that competition, clearly that built a community. So I like the idea that we can define community in lots and lots of different ways, and that it will mean different things to different groups of students. Furthermore, the words inspire, which is what I think we hope to do, is to inspire not only students, but to inspire our employees, to inspire members of the community who might not be our employees, but who have some impact on the kids that we serve. I think that does a great job of capturing another aspect of what we do. And then you get to curiosity, creativity, and achievement, which all of our kids are wired a little differently. They all have different interests, they have things they're good at, they have different things that they struggle with, but all of them can achieve on some level. From the highest flyer to the student who really struggles, they all are capable of achievement. And they're all capable of being inspired to curiosity, and each child is creative. I think all of those words together give charges to everyone, from the superintendent, to the people who work in this building, to teachers, to cafeteria workers, to bus drivers, to everybody, I hope, in the system can take something out of what I think this new vision statement is. That's why I like it. And one of the first things they teach you when you go to board member training, when you first get elected to a job like this, is that the first job of a board is to create a vision. It's really the staff's job then to implement that vision and make it real for our employees and our students. I'm very proud of the effort here. I think if it weren't for all the great engaged stakeholders that we have, we never would have come up with this. So as much as I want to say it's the board's vision, it really is the community's vision. So I think it's something that inspires me, and I hope with the opening of this building and the adoption of this new vision statement, I hope it'll change the way all of us look at the work we do and look at Washington County Public Schools. And by bad, I don't mean to something better, because change isn't always better or worse. It's just different. And I hope that those two things will change the way we look at the work that we do. Are there any other comments? If not, the question's on Mrs. Brightman's motion to adopt the new vision for Washington County Public Schools. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
And the first item, Mr. President, is a recognition of some very special teachers, our nationally certified board teachers, our newest ones to the system. And Joni, Burkhart will come up and do the introductions.
Good evening, Dr. Hardings, Dr. Wilcox, and members of the board. Tonight we will recognize National Board Certified Teachers. As part of the National Board process, these teachers analyzed their teaching context and student needs. They submitted videos of their teaching and provided student work samples that demonstrated growth and achievement. As National Board's teachers, they were expected to have a strong command of content, the ability to design appropriate learning experience that advance student learning, the use of assessments to inform instructional decision-making, and partnerships with colleagues, parents, and the community. This year, I am proud to announce that we had 3 candidates attain National Board certification. I'm going to announce your name, and then you're going to step over there and with Dr. Wilcox. The first one I would like to announce is Rebecca Bland. She is from Salem Avenue Elementary School. She received her National Board certification in early and middle childhood literacy and reading and language arts. The second teacher that we have is Amber Scheffler. Amber is from South Hagerstown High School. She received her National Board certification in early adolescence through young adulthood in world languages, and I want to say she is the first in Washington County to receive it in world languages. And our third is Ashley Wisner from Boonesboro High School. She received her certification in social studies, history, adolescence, and young adulthood. She is also the first social studies teacher in Washington County to attain National Board certification. So thank you so much for recognizing these teachers.
Congratulations, Anna. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thrilled from you. That's good.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So the second item of the report is why probably some people are either tuned in or here. We want to talk a little bit about snow days. And I'm going to turn most of this presentation over to Mr. Michaels because he's responsible for calling all of them. That's not true. As I think those who are watching know, we've now had 9 days of no student contact during our school year. We were pressed to use 5 of the days that we had within our calendar, and we have been looking for ways then to kind of fight off that middle of June end of the school year. And in order to do that, we've looked pretty creatively at our schedules. I also want to tell you that we have talked to our Teachers Association, our ESPs, our Education Support Employees, and we've talked to our administrative associations. A lot of people are just real quick to say, well, just do this or do that, and they don't realize that we have numbers of contractual obligations, but we also have lots of families who have made plans, and we wanted to be as respectful as we could to as many families as we could. So in order to move forward, I'm going to have Dr. Michaels walk through a plan that I think makes a great deal of sense. We're going to present it to the community tonight and ask for some input from our board, and then we will bring it back to ask the board to ratify or to formalize, approve the change. Let me say that again. We will bring it back to the board at your next public meeting and ask you to change the calendar to accomplish the task that we have. And again, our task is simply to maximize the number of days that we have our kids while they're still willing and able to pay attention. That said, Dr. Michaels, will you walk through this process for people?
Thank you, Dr. Wilcox. Dr. Wilcox mentioned certainly our goal to provide 180 days of instruction to our students and have those be quality days. As we've talked to a wide variety of stakeholders over the last number of weeks, there's a great deal of interest in trying to end the school year and not go well into June to accomplish our 180 days of school. At this point, after talking with a variety of people, reviewing emails and phone calls from parents, as well as communications with WCTA, ESP, and administrators, we believe we have a pretty good solution at this point that will capture 3 more days in addition to the President's Day, which will in effect build 9 snow days into the current 2013-14 calendar. So the first day we'd like the board to consider to move is March 27th. It's currently a professional day. We're requesting that that be made an instructional day for students. There's a back-to-back day with that, March 28th, Friday, March 28th. We're requesting that the board consider making that an instructional day for students. And also, what's traditionally known as Easter Monday, April 21st. It'd be a day that we'd have to request a waiver from the state. We anticipate that other counties have received such a waiver, and that Washington County would receive a waiver as well, that we make that an instructional day for students. By doing so, this will pick up 3 additional days, as I said, in addition to President's Day. It would make our last day for students, if we don't have any more snow days at this point, I believe June 12th, a Thursday, last day for teachers, if we don't have any more snow days. I hate to even jinx us by talking about that. June 13th, and it would, by all accounts, be far more beneficial to instruction to have these days during this period of time rather than June 16th, 17th, and 18th, which would be the extension of the school year at this time. We'd also probably pursue a waiver for student days if indeed we did pick up another day or 2 of snow. So that would be something else that we'd want to consider as we move forward and make our final recommendation to the board on March 4th. And with that, I'll stop and entertain any questions or input the board might have.
Is there any discussion from the board?
Well, as the board thinks about it, let me just offer a couple of things. First, know that we had 5 days built into our current school calendar. We've exhausted those days. We've had additional days, and we've now come up with a methodology to place a correct number of instructional days within the calendar. We have some contractual issues that we still have to wrestle with our employee groups, but we've worked in good faith to resolve those issues, and we think we'll be able to finish those up later this week. For those people who are looking at a calendar at home right now, you'll see then that we are going to, if all goes well, end this calendar within the confines of the calendar that was originally proposed by this board. So we feel pretty good about it. We feel that there's going to be a great deal of flexibility afforded to our teachers, because we also know that some of our teachers have plans as well, and we want to be respectful of that. With that, if you have thought of a question you'd like to ask, Mr. Michaels, Dr. Michaels, or I will be happy to respond. Mr. Wright?
No, go ahead, Tom, please.
Just occurred to me, I know we're talking about school snow days. What about central office? How does that handle differently as far as our employees and ESP or support folks?
Central office normally is open except for designated holidays as approved by the board calendar. For instance, during the spring break when schools are closed, 12-month employees, 12-month administrators, ESP, staff would be working during that spring break time. So the central office is in effect open right now, according to the calendar, on April 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. So that snow days don't traditionally affect the central office unless for some reason the central office itself is closed, which did happen here recently.
I was going to say, how many times did we actually close central office?
In the last 25 or 30 years, I'd have to say twice.
So it wasn't closed during any of this season?
Yes. We closed it once this season, the heaviest snow day, and the time before actually was not closed because of snow, it was closed because of flooding.
Oh, okay.
So it's not often you get us down, but winter has this year.
Thank you.
This is more a statement, and it's just a repetition of something I said earlier. I would recommend again to the calendar committee and to those individuals who work on the calendar that as we move forward into the next few years and look at future calendars, that in an effort to give people an opportunity to understand and plan what's going to happen in case of another hideous winter like we've had this year, that this year we had 5 built-in snow days, and we're up to 9, that we do it early. In other words, as we write the calendar, we specifically state that in event of surpassing 5 calendar days, we would utilize these particular days in the school year as make-up days. Now, I know some of them, for example, with President's Day and with Easter Monday, we would have to ask for a waiver, but if we're getting close to 8, 9 days, obviously we're going to be asking for a waiver probably anyway at some point. So I just think it gives then the public and our professional staff an opportunity to know here's what could happen. And there's no surprise, and you don't say that, at the last second, well, I had planned to do something that day. You understand you may be off, but if there is if there's another year like this, you're going to be you're going to be working and the kids are going to be in school. So I think that would go. I think it would go a long way towards nullifying the outcry that we get sometimes in situations like this, and it would go an awful long way towards allowing people to make plans and understand where we are in the school calendar if things go wrong.
Thank you. Sir, consider that.
Mr. Bailey?
Most of us, I'm certain all of us, received numerous emails on this topic. Every time we went to the grocery store, we encountered those who were concerned. Every time we went to church, we were encountered with questions about this. And I'm sure, again, most of us tried to put a calendar together that would solve this problem. And they probably all varied from what we have here tonight. But I want to say that and applaud the staff for coming up with these recommendations. I think they're the most feasible, the most workable, and recognizes our professional staff as well as our ESP group with the action that is being recommended. And I thank you for that work.
Well, certainly was a team effort to this point. Good input from a variety of people, and just kind of molded together with suggestions. And I think it is a good alternative.
Other comments? I too want to thank the staff. I think there's no solution that one could come up with that's going to make everybody happy. That's very clear. And I think if you talk to somebody who might have served on the calendar committee, you realize I didn't realize it before I was on the board, just how many moving parts go into building a calendar. And as much effort and time as that takes to build a calendar, it almost takes as much to change it. I was telling somebody the other day, just what it takes to send students to school on President's Day. You need the waiver from the state superintendent. I don't know if she needs that approved by her board, but I bet she does. So state board's got to approve it. The state superintendent's got to approve it. Our superintendent has to approve it. Our board has to approve it. And then you need to sit down with all of the employee groups to look at the contractual implications of sending students and employees to school on that day. So it may seem like all you have to do is say, well, send them to school here, here, and here, but it really takes an awful lot of work, and there are a lot of things that have to be considered in order to make these kinds of changes. I think it's a good solution. I'm glad that we're going to be able to let students have the last day for students be unchanged in June. I'm also glad we're able to preserve the spring break, because largely spring break. For everybody who's complained that they have vacation plans in June, I've also got emails and stops in the grocery store from people who say they've got vacation plans over spring break. So that you've come up with a solution where we can preserve both of those, I think makes a lot of sense. Sure, there may be some students and some faculty, some staff who can't make it on the days that we're adding, but I'll bet it's going to be a lot less that are impacted than would be impacted if we added a day or 2 days over that spring break week. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And finally, I would just say to the people out there, I think all of us, the 7 of us, take this responsibility very, very seriously. I know we've all talked to the superintendent, we've all talked to people in the community, and we're very sensitive to trying to do, particularly on this issue and on all issues, to do right by the people that we serve, the students, our families, our employees. And I just want the public to know that. You may not see it all the time because it's not always in this forum, but I think each of the 7 of us, and I know the staff, takes our responsibility in this regard very seriously. We don't take it lightly, and I think we all think through what could be best for the people that we serve. So I just wanted to put that out there while I had the opportunity. And for my opinion, I think the solution you've come up with is great, and I'm glad that we have partners in our employee groups who are willing to work with us on what is clearly a difficult situation this year. Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Just Dr. Wilcox, I don't know if you still have the numbers on the student attendance yesterday. It was pretty high.
Our student attendance, we were right at 93.6, I think, 93%.
And that was what, with a week's notice on that change, and we had excellent attendance from our students. So I think that speaks well of our communities.
Yes, we were only off a couple percentage points overall, and that was great. We had a relatively calm day in terms of staff and teacher absences as well, so it was a good team effort.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back March 4th.
Thank you.
No more snow.
Next, we have personnel action. Ms. Francisco.
I could see one thing about our new forum, we're going to have to move the staff tables a little further forward. It takes them a long time to get up here. You have to pack a lunch.
You should just put a catwalk down.
Give them roller skates. Don't go there.
No.
Dr. Hardings, Dr. Wilcox, members of the board, as discussed in closed session, there are several staff changes for your consideration this evening.
Is there a motion to approve the personnel actions recommended by staff?
Mr. President, I move to accept the staff changes that were outlined earlier today.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. President.
Motion and a second to approve the staff changes recommended by staff. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have reports to the board. Mrs. Harshman, curriculum.
CNI has not met since our last board meeting. We will meet next Tuesday, February 25th at 11:15 in the board conference room, the new board conference room. The agenda will be posted and the public is invited.
Mrs. Williams, Finance.
Yes. The Finance Committee met from 3:30 to 4:30 on Tuesday, February 11th. Agenda items included the December 2013 financial report, the second quarter budget adjustments, the RFP for 403B and 457B benefit, the status of the legislative audit, and the status of the RFP for back office software. Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for March 25th at 3:30 in the Finance Conference Room, which I believe is on the 3rd floor.
All right. Mrs. Fisher.
Policy Committee met on February 11th and finished constructing Policy BF, which will be reviewed at our next meeting, which is February the 25th at 1:45. On that date, we should also be starting on our new state-driven disciplinary policy.
Mr. Bailey, Facilities.
Facilities has not met since I last reported. We are scheduled to meet our regular monthly meeting in February.
Thank you. Mr. Ridenauer, Human Resources.
Yes, Human Resources will meet. Usually I look back at Mrs. Francisco and get hand signals as to what we're supposed to do, but since she's back in the crow's nest back there, I'm not sure how the hell to get a hold of her. But we will be meeting, I believe, the 25th at 8:45, somewhere in this building. we'll find it at some point in time and let everybody know.
Breadcrumbs.
In the Human Resources Conference Room.
Human Resources
There we
go,
go.
see? Yep, thank you.
All right, is anything from May legislative or?
Nothing new. We have a Board of Directors meeting tomorrow, and our next legislative committee will be on the 24th of February.
And anything from May conference planning?
Yes, we have a conference planning meeting coming up on March 24th.
21st.
Anything else from any other committees, May or otherwise? All right, that brings us to future agenda items. Agenda planning did meet earlier today. We are going to have a report on mid-year performance data based on a request from Mrs. Williams. That'll be on March 18th. We have the budget presentation and public hearing on March 11th at 6:30, and we have a number of other items that we'll be scheduling, including the legislative update at the next meeting, an update on construction documents for West City Elementary, and a number of other things that will be scheduled for weeks to come. That brings us to board member comments. Mrs. Harshman?
Nothing at this time other than it's really nice to be here. It's a beautiful facility, and I think it was well worth the time and energy it took to get us in here and the rest of the staff.
Mrs. Williams?
I'd just like to thank everyone for their efforts in getting us into this beautiful facility. I had a call last evening from a friend who works here, central office, and she wanted to make me aware of the outstanding team effort from everyone. The transition from Commonwealth Avenue to the Downsville Pike was just so well planned and so well executed, and nothing makes me happier than to know how well the team worked, and it feels great to be in such a lovely facility, and I look forward to great work and great things happening here.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams and Mrs. Brighton.
Just congratulations to Dr. Wilcox and all the staff for a, how many months? 9 months? 8 months? 8-month effort. I think it's great. We got in on time, just a little bit, and just a little bit over budget, and it was worth every effort made, and the morale and the energy is huge here, and you can almost feel it, and it's very exciting. So I look forward to a few more meetings here.
Just a few?
Just a few.
Mrs. Fisher?
Well, by the time it gets this far down the dais, everything's been said, but everything that everyone else has said is very true, and it's great to be in a new facility.
Mr. Bailey?
Mr. President, when we left Commonwealth, I said I had stepped across the threshold for 55 years. I was delighted to step across the threshold here today for meeting number 1. And again, congratulations to the staff, which has already been said so eloquently. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Mr. Rideout?
Well, ditto on everything that's been said in regards to the building. It is absolutely spectacular, as I knew it would be. I do want to go back just again and thank Dr. Wilcox and Boyd and Dr. Michael, for their efforts with the calendar. I mean, I know that's been a monumental headache, and I think it's been very well thought out. What you guys have come up with will be in the best interest of the overwhelming majority of people who are going to have to deal with this. So thank you.
Well, everybody's saying thank you, but I would say, first of all, thank you to the board, because it really took some courage to spend some money on an administrative center when our primary focus always every day is our schools. So I want to thank the board members for your courage to do that. I think we have worked every day to make you proud of the investment that you've made in this, and also to have really a shining example of what can be done in Washington County. So we're very proud of it. We've already hosted several tours. Tomorrow we will host the Retired Administrators Association. Mr. Bailey's going to bring his crew over. But I also would be remiss, and every time you begin to name some names, you forget somebody, but I'm going to take a chance here and just name a couple of folks, because there are some unsung heroes, some people who really made this night happen. And, we've mentioned Dr. Michaels several times, but we haven't mentioned Mark Mills, who's sitting back there, who literally was here probably the last 75 or 80 days without, going home. He was here on Christmas Day. He was here on New Year's Day. He was just here. And he led a really talented staff. And, some of those guys like Matt and John, Dave, Brad Otto, all put in so much effort. And, Mark, what I would hope you would do is share from myself and from the board just how proud we are to work with them. They are craftsmen. They are men and women who care deeply about the school system. And quite honestly, it shows. I mean, you look around this building and you see happy people. And it's a result of the people who oftentimes go unrecognized in this district, but they just do the hard everyday work of getting things done. So my thanks to all of them, and my thanks to my executive staff who've kind of suffered through a few of my tirades as I said, let's get there now. I thank each of you for all that you've done as well. So thank you.
I too want to thank my colleagues on the board. It's through our partnership that we were able to decide to finally take the move to do this. I remember when we first started this discussion, I heard many people say, oh, here goes the board again talking about moving. They're going to talk about it and they're never going to do it. Well, I'm proud of the 7 of us that we had the courage to do it. And to Dr. Wilcox, it really is his vision that made this become a reality. When I walked through this building with him at the very beginning of this process, he immediately had a vision for what this building could be. And without that sort of leadership, vision, and then the management skills to get it done, management and political skills for that matter, we wouldn't have what we've got today. So as a small token of our appreciation, the board would like to give you this gift, an item that anybody, as you all know, this building has a lot of quirks to it. There's a lot of unique things about this building. And every executive in this building ought to have what we're giving you, Dr. Wilcox.
It's a little spooky to open this up in front of people. My own helicopter.
We couldn't afford one that would fit on the helicopter pad, but we thought that would remind you it was there.
So the inside story for people who are watching, this building was the home of a large energy company, and out in the front yard, there's literally is a windsock and a helicopter pad. I've said a number of times that will be the Washington County Public School District's helicopter. We now have it. So thank you so very much.
And you actually have 2, so you can race with your friends.
Life is good.
If I catch you and Marco on the top floor, anyway.
Oh my.
Mike, I'm not going up there with you. You'd jump. Can I say one other thing? We talk a lot about this being a team effort, and it really was a team effort. But truthfully, I never would have seen this facility unless one afternoon Mr. Ridenour hadn't called me and said, Clayton, you ought to go look at a facility. And so, Wayne, I want to say to you, thank you very much, because quite honestly, had you not said it, I would have not come here. And I really do think a lot of the credit for this building goes to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just delighted that we finally have a building that is worthy of the important work that the people who work here do each and every day. So let's go do great things with it.
This is so cool. I too for amazing dog fights.
I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Clayton, be sure you practice with that before you give Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.